All right. Uh, all right. This is the Wolf of Futures Street. We are on with a new podcast. It's a trader talk. The struggle is real. I have with me today uh, the Drawdown King. Drawdown King, thank you very much for joining this podcast. I
Thank you for having
appreciate
me.
your time. Sorry.
I said, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what I find is uh, there are lots of podcasts talking about traders who are doing so well. People are making so much money, millions of dollars, but I feel that there is a lack of discussion around people who are average Joe traders, just like you and me, if I dare say that, and kind of talk about how have we actually gone about navigating this treacherous sea of trading. So again, appreciate you taking time off. I know it's pretty late for you, and I thought that this conversation might actually help strugglers like you and me and others in the same rank to gain some insights. So again, thank you very much, Drawdown King, DDK, for
hmm
joining tonight. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically quickly pass on the baton to you, DDK, if you don't mind. I've put up some topics here, and I think these might resonate with most people who are actually in the journey of trading, navigating the waters, as I said earlier. So I just want you to first introduce yourself. Take us through, who are you in life, in real life, and how did you start trading? Over to you.
Okay. Yeah. So my name's my logo name or is Drawdown King. My first name's John. So I'm from
Right.
U.S. here in Kentucky. Started trading probably maybe 2000 between 2009 and 10. Just got into some different stocks and looking at IB IBD and some of their ratings and got into the swing trades a little on that. And then when I left my job, when I worked for Apple in 2011, I picked up and got heavier into stocks at that time. That led to a little bit of futures and options. And I had several breaks in between. And I've been back in with options. I mean, options for got into it about another year or two ago, and then I've transitioned over to futures probably less than a year ago, and sort of got into that particularly just due to the nature of being able to make money by pushing a button
Mhm.
and watching charts and learning some of the ins and outs. But that's sort of where it started with.
Interesting. So you've kind of covered a lot of the usual path of stocks, options, and then futures. What I also find very interesting is in your journey. I mean, I've seen that the way you've documented. I mean, what I really, what struck me was, how you kind of journaled your trading, and I think I find that really, really interesting, and which is what I thought I should kind of discuss even further. But before we kind of dwell into those details, I just want to appreciate the fact that you have actually kind of done something that most people don't do, and which I probably recommend people doing is you know try and record yourself as much as possible. And obviously, I'm far away from you in terms of the sophistication of it, but I appreciate the fact that you're doing it rigorously. Whether people follow us or not, it doesn't really matter. So talk us through that as well, DDK, if you don't mind, or John, sorry, if you don't mind, please.
Sure.
What led you to basically going all out in terms of you know putting up your content.
So I started noticing really what when I worked in support from home, I was able to look at these screens, and I wasn't really trading a lot at the time. I started noticing patterns in the the S&P futures, certain levels where looks like high probability connections from one area to another area started happening and repeating over and over again every single day for weeks and years now. So that got me into using ES just as the main guide for options trading and for maybe a few other stocks. I really wasn't necessarily trading futures at that time. This was probably maybe 2006 to 2008-ish. I started to notice these patterns. Recently, I would say within the last 6 months, I've found a lot of additional connecting patterns. I started streaming some of this stuff last year, basically just in the hopes of that somebody else will pick up on this, see the methodology, and then expand upon it. I know there's a lot of things that could be expanded on, maybe things I'm missing, and some mathematical computations. I noticed some additional levels and patterns probably 6 months ago, and those have followed over from ES to NQ to RTY to Gold and all these other asset classes. So initially, when I was streaming, I was doing like NQ and heavy contract size and stuff, and showing scalping, and I thought that looked a little too dangerous. So I've scaled back mostly just to streaming charts and trading on another screen. So I don't want to give unrealistic expectations. And I sort of got out of the NQ just due to the volatile nature and not really being able to keep up with that constantly day to day. So the primary focus I'm trying to look at is just helping others to build some foundations, but then somebody's going to come along and expand upon this by leaps and bounds. So that's my hopes in doing that.
Yeah, makes sense completely. That's what I've been trying to do as well. Document my journey and hope that it inspires someone else and they can actually expand on it rather than just take it and sit on it. So yeah, I mean, I fully kind of agree with you in that. The what I find also, I mean, that we are talking right now, John, you've been in the markets for a long time. I mean, I've been trading futures exclusively for the last 5-6 years now, but you have actually been in the markets and trading for I would say over almost 2 decades, if that's kind of a right
Well,
number.
probably about 12 years or so. Well, 12 or
Got it.
13 years, something like that.
Right. And how much of that would be in the online prop firm space, John? Is it very recent?
That's definitely much more recent. I remember seeing a few things years and years ago. I think when some of these
Mhm.
firms came out, but I didn't really know what it was, and I wasn't really understanding what they were trying to do. I think so. I just sort of
Yeah,
bypassed that. But yeah, recent, probably within the last year and a half, studying
got
and
it.
getting into this. So I still enjoy options the most, but for leverage versus cost versus risk reduction, it's really hard to beat
Mhm.
the prop firm direction.
Sure, sure. So, although you've been into futures only very recently, but obviously, as I said, your experience is far more diverse. So, how about gurus and furus, John? I'm certain that you would have encountered some of them, and this whole new term, scheming and scamming, right?
Mhm.
What's your perspective on that, John?
What man, I've seen that when I first started out. I mean, there was all kinds of coaching, mentorships, and which some of those are probably valid, but $10,000, $20,000, and some of these things, and some of these real in depth $25,000 expansive things. And then on the flip side, you'd have things like penny stocks, and uh, I got into those as well, probably around 2012, and tons of alert services and things for that. I don't know if options were as popular at the time, but it seemed like it sort of fell into one or the other. The very expensive camp, which I can't verify if some of those were schemers, or uh, I didn't venture into that. And then some of the ones that did the penny stocks and options started picking up steam, and then Twitter came into the mix, and that's really where things just went crazy with all these posts of massive profits and guarantees of following signals and things of that. And I was in a few chat rooms and things, but I never really followed anybody's trades. I just wanted to sort of see what that was, and then the crypto came out, and it just went haywire after that. So yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I haven't never really gave them any money or anything, but it seems like that's the impression most people get when trading is the get rich quick schemes, and it's
Yeah.
definitely put a bad look into any asset trading, I think, at this time.
So it's kind of fair to say that you haven't contributed to someone else's Lambo or Ferrari funds.
I saw that and I'm like, yeah, but you listen to them, it's like, even if they're making money, which some of them might be,
Mhm.
they're also making a lot of money selling whatever kind of things they've cooked up. And to me, I've never really seen any that really made a lot of sense to capture the kind of profits they're claiming.
Right. So, but I mean, it's very easy to succumb to these kind of temptations, right? I'm just surprised how you kind of steer yourself away. Is it because of your mindset right from day one, John, in terms of just doing your own thing, listen to everyone, but just focus on yourself? Is that at the core of how you kind of kind of start with your own style?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I just and even some of these rooms that I've been in where people were making money, I wouldn't really even trade it. Sometimes I would trade against them just to see what would happen. But yeah, it's just I always figured that if they have something so valuable that can give that kind of profit, so really, why would they share it with anybody? I know that's different now with YouTube, and there's a lot of methodologies, but even now, you rarely see traders that are well known that are actually sharing exactly what they're doing if they are doing what they say they're doing. So it just me
Yeah,
sort of seemed like a lot of snake oil and
yeah,
pump and dump. But in that mix, I'm sure, and I've seen and talked to some of them and have a few mentors that are really excellent pro traders, but most people don't know who they are.
got it. And also, would it be fair to say, John, that you obviously have a day job, so you wanted to keep exploring your own self in terms of your own trading style and kind of figure it out your way. Whereas if you don't have a day job, or if you don't have financial backing that people you need to rely on, that you would actually be a bit more desperate. Is that also one of the reasons why you kind of kept on doing what you did?
Oh yeah. I mean, during those periods, well, some periods when I left Apple, I didn't have a day job at all, and I just jumped straight into trading. And I mean, there were some ups and some downs, and some really big downs. And then several years later, I got into support and tech
Yeah.
support and things. But right now, I'm doing this primarily along with additional online sources of income from selling or um, different things. But yeah, I mean, it really helps to have that. I wish I would have
Mhm.
probably had a job and kept that
Yeah.
money and learned it the proper way, but it can be extremely difficult when you have to wake up and depend on this, and it's not a good idea.
I agree. So whilst we are on struggles and difficulties, how about converting those difficulties into solutions? How did things eventually kind of look brighter for you, John, over time? If you can shed some light on that as well, please.
Sure. So, I mean, I did take one mentorship that was a short one. I sort of learned some things about the SPY options and then started looking at ES as a way to chart and navigate those. So, and then from that, adding on the tools, checking out patterns, and then building some foundations and learning some similarities between different markets and asset classes. So, sort of really a piecemeal type approach, but I've always kept ES as the main foundation of anything, whether it's stocks or options, for quite some time now.
Got it. And if I may kind of get into the futures aspect or the proforms aspect, what's your take on it in terms of trading ES? I know that I've seen your content, John, recently, and I know that you trade ES whilst looking at the Russell and NQ.
Mhm.
And you also mentioned that you left NQ because it was too volatile for you. Now, how did you? So, what is the rationale for kind of landing up with ES? And would you also trade micros, or you only trade minis? And what's your take on trading leverage versus reduced leverage?
Yeah, so the ES I've just been stuck on since probably had that mentorship, and I traded some futures many years back, but on a personal account. But um, in terms of really finding the correlation, I started doing that recently when I was noticing that the levels I used on ES, which have a script here, then I plugged in an NQ and I was like, wait a minute, it's using these same levels, and then RTY. And then I've noticed that some of these sort of hidden moves that even with the levels that I had on my ES, I'm noticing that there's nothing there on the chart that would indicate the move. And then I look at NQ and I'm like, oh, okay. So a lot of these moves that I've been noticing recently have been started or influenced by NQ specifically, and with much further windows of the levels that it goes through. But correlating those and then using the RTY sort of as a secret sauce when those all three line up off key levels. In terms of the minis or micros, I just go with minis, usually 1 to 3, probably more like 2 to 3,
Right.
leverage and try to go for small moves. That's just sort of what I like to be a little more controlled, and get in at better entries and to just take a quick high percentage trade that has less chances of not working versus getting in real early in the morning and letting the trade play out. So I know a lot of people do that and are great at that. That's just not been my style. I usually like to just scalp in and out based off key levels.
Well,
But in terms of the leverage, yeah, I mean that can be too much for a lot of people, and sometimes it is for me. And in Q, definitely, you start getting into 2 plus, it's can be a whole different ball game. But
yeah.
I find that it's probably would be best for most people to start with 3 to 5 micros on an
Yeah.
ES,
Yeah.
because on three
Makes
to
sense.
five micros, even on NQ, can be wild at times.
Got it. And with prop firms, what's your preferred account size, if I may? Do
In
you trade
terms of the
50K, 100Ks?
Yeah, the account sizes, I like to go with the smallest ones. So a lot of times that's 50Ks. If they have 25Ks, I'll go with that as well.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just quicker to hit the profit and then
Mm-hmm.
start making money versus having to build up a lot larger buffer. And then you get with those larger account sizes, you usually have more contracts. And say you're used to using 1 to 3 contracts, and all of a sudden you got tens. It's easy
Yeah.
to jump into that.
Yeah. Exactly. I've done the gunslinging myself. I've just full ported 10 contracts, 15 contracts, just because I could press some buttons.
And I sort of got into a little bit of an issue when I started back into the prop firm. One of the main guys at one of the firms was trading 15 contracts of NQ, so that sort of got me from ES, and I started messing with NQ, and that's messed my head up for a while. Just
Right.
just
Right.
way too much.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I mean, but I think the trouble is that it takes time for us to understand these things. Uh, Initially, we feel it's so like, I've got all the power that I need to shoot. But then once you start destroying accounts day in and day out, that's when you kind of, start thinking, okay, I need to slow down. Uh, so yeah, I agree. And ES obviously doesn't do. I mean, ES can be pretty wacky at times, but it's not as wacky as the Nasdaq. So yeah.
Yeah, Nasdaq is a whole different beast. You'll think you have a move whether you're in profit or it runs against you, and you think, oh, it's not going to go any further, and then it goes 2 to 3, 4 times further than you expected.
Yeah, yeah. And if I would probably ask you, what's your trading style in terms of scalping? So you obviously scalp, but when I say scalp, it also means most people would actually scalp. Uh, or when I say most people, I'm saying even within scalping there are kind of categories. So are you a really really quick scalper, as in a sniper, like taking a few points here and there on ES, or are you kind of looking at a 15-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute time frame in terms of the duration of the trade itself?
Well, I'll keep the 15-minute chart up for the main window, and then an hour chart, and then scalp off a 3 minute. But yeah, those trades could be 10 seconds up to a few minutes. It's rarely they're over a few minutes long. Today I had one that probably lasted 30 minutes or more and didn't really barely came at break even. So that was an exception. But
yeah. And also notice that obviously you're looking at different times of the day to trade. So I know that you focus primarily on the power hour, or basically the afternoons sessions, and obviously the midnight sessions also, or I shouldn't say midnight, but the pre-market sessions after the market opens at 6 p.m. Is that correct?
I've been working on that session a little bit. I had a trade earlier that worked out pretty well, but I haven't been doing a lot of pre-market or Globex open. Usually 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern time, but I try to get most of that in between 1 and 3, which is sort of an odd time. But sometimes you can have good days during that move. Some days it can be very choppy.
Yeah.
Like today.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah. But I mean, I think this is also a revelation for most people. Somehow I find that people who basically trade the futures market, especially through prop firms, they are so hell bent on looking at the open and feel that the open is the best time to trade. Whereas someone like you and also me, I prefer to trade the odd hours. Because I feel that the volatility is a far more subdued. I mean, it's there and yet it's not crazy. And the fact that I can then see my trades happening from a distance. So, it's, I think, a key learning for me. I don't know about you, but I think it's a key learning to not trade when the cars are racing really fast, and just kind of stay calm and composed when you feel FOMO. But I feel that most traders are kind of so hell bent on trading the market open that it can work out well and it can't work, and it can go completely topsy turvy as well. So yeah, I again endorse your time frames.
Yeah, the market open. The main reason I don't trade, at least with futures, the open, and I try not to trade the last 30 minutes. Sometimes I will, is because not only the volatility and movement, especially if you're trading with decent size, because you can get stopped out or hit profit really quick. But some of these prop firms seem to have more data issues with orders not being executed, delayed fills and stuff. Although it may not happen all the time, it's happened enough for me not necessarily to trust those data feeds the first couple hours of the day and the last 15, 30 minutes of the day.
Yeah, I think well said. I think what I find is, what I'm kind of gathering from our discussion here is your overall style, John. So what you're doing is basically you're protecting yourself from your own vices, in a sense that FOMO, trying to catch the early move. You're not basically you're resisting to those temptations, but also knowing the fact that there are some issues outside of your control, which is the infrastructure of the prop firms going haywire, the data feeds going haywire, and not succumbing to those risks as well. So that's an interesting take. I like it. Thanks again. I think hopefully people will find some of these informations really useful for for shaping up their own styles. But it's interesting that you say that, John. So I appreciate that. So, and again, also summarizing the way I see you trading every day, you're basically trading the ES and looking at confluences between the ES, the levels within ES that you've identified, which are very, very different, and also looking at NASDAQ and Russell and finding the confluences within those two charts as well to trade on ES. So that's pretty interesting. I don't think most people kind of recognize that in at least in the content that I've seen online. So again, very interesting. What I would also suggest is, John, I know that we don't have time today to go through the details of the chart, but hopefully in the next podcast we will actually kind of dwell deeper into your trading itself, if you don't mind. Sure. Where we can probably share your charts, obviously your awesome website and your Discord server and your and the details, and your YouTube, obviously. So, and I would highly recommend people to kind of look at that. I will be dropping down the links of all of your content in the comment section for people to look at as well. But before we conclude, John, final messages for fellow traders. What are the things that you would tell yourself if you were to start futures 5 years back that you have learned now?
Yeah, futures 5 years back, definitely start small. Do a lot of journaling and running stats for your best time of the day. Try different trading styles. Just because I'm doing scalping now, I mean, I would like to get into trend trading. So try and follow some trend trades, scale down the size, try to get some bigger moves, and then try to see if periods of volatility may or may not help you. For me, we were talking about that a few moments ago. The volatility, I'm sort of addicted to it. So I've got a massive problem going haywire when it gets real volatile. And I've had some great winners and some big losers doing that. So that's another reason. But just, I would say start small and then check different styles. Your 3 to 5 micros, and then try maybe 1 to 3 minis on paper. Try different times of the day, volatile times, non-volatile times, and then check out, see when you trade the best on your stats, and then start building your levels and learning which indicators or patterns that work best for you, and then stick with them and keep building it.
Yes. So basically, take your time, go slow, and experiment a lot early on because it's going to be a long journey. So again, final point, John. How long should someone expect to take before you see some bit of consistency and profits from your perspective, John?
If you're first starting out, I would imagine the 2 to 3 year mark.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
If you stayed consistent on that one asset, if you keep changing back and forth, that can obviously add some time to it.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, John. So I'll hopefully catch you back with a detailed video on your trading style and how you trade, John. But I think this was a great starter. I appreciate your time again, John. I know it's late in the night for you, but hope to catch you soon. And keep trading. Go green.
All right, sounds
Thanks,
good.
John.
I definitely appreciate you having me on tonight.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Take care.